Welcome back to another episode of Luminary Leaders Live. My name is Shelley Harrison and I'm your host. And we have amazing guests. And I have a new guest with me today that I've just met through LinkedIn. And I've known him now for a few months. And I'm happy to have him here today. You'll meet him in just a moment. I want to mention that we have a show sponsor, which is Endeavor Mortgage. So we want to give Dan Leonard and Seal Beach a shout out for Endeavor Mortgage. And then my company is Luminary Leaders, and we represent CEOs and executives all over the country. And we want to give a shout out to a couple of our clients who are out in the field right now. We've got Rich Bontrager, who's in Miami right now, and he's doing a talk out at actually a Blue Talk. So he's doing some great work out there. And then we have a few other clients that are out there. Lavon Shields, who's doing great work with Tony Robbins this week. So thank you so much for our clients. We love to give shout outs. So enough of that. I want to welcome my guest, who is Nate Turner. He is a financial advisor. He's also an author, a speaker, and a TEDx talker. So a speaker. So without further ado, Nate, welcome to Luminary Leaders Live.
Thanks for having me, Shelley. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're here too. And I know that we've had a few conversations, and you really intrigue me, Nate, because I think you've got some principles in the way that you live life. And we're going to get into that because I really want people to hear, how you do this. You have your family involved in it. And we're going to talk about your books and some other fun things. So I'd like to start out, though, just have people know, who is Nate Turner?
Well, good lead in. So I would say,
segue, right?
Yeah, it's a great way. So,
Yeah.
So you use the word who, and for me, the word who is perhaps the most important word in the human language and the least understood word. I believe that who I am, it depends on who it is you're talking to.
Yeah.
I was like to say that we are never who we think we are. We're not who we believe others think we are. We are who those that we're in relationship with perceive us to be. So who am I? It depends on who you ask. But who I'd like to be when my time on this planet is up is someone who's known to help serve and make sure other people knew that their lives matter.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. And, you've got so many wonderful qualities. And I kind of want to jump right into, you have a principle that you live by every day, and you do 20 things. And we briefly talked about it before we got on the broadcast. Let's talk about that and how that developed. And let's talk about that, because that's something that I think a lot of people can learn from.
Okay. Well, most of the things that I do as an adult come from one or two places. They come from the people who helped raise me. I'm originally from Gary, Indiana. I was a mediocre high school student that had the great benefit of meeting some people who just decided to love me for no reason and told me that I could be a lot more than I was. My trajectory was supposed to be. And then the second person or that is responsible for, I believe, who I am today as an adult is my son. And in an attempt to make sure that my son's childhood was better than mine, we developed a series of tools and strategies and techniques to help him. And part of that was this system we created for academic called the ASS. And I'm not using profanity. It's the academic success strategy. And there were 20 things he would do each day, 7 things he would do each week, and 3 to 4 things that we would ask him to do each quarter or semester. And one day, some students asked me if I did anything like that in my life. And I realized I didn't, and I started applying that very same process and modified it for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, getting up in the morning, I know, like, for example, I know, and I think we talked about this when we talked offline, the miracle morning. That's something where getting up in the morning, having intention, working on personal development. It could be reading, it could be journaling, it could be meditation, whatever. And I know that you had sent me many, many books, which I was so excited to get, because that's what I do in the morning. I read. And these are your 2 books that I wanted to kind of show here. Let's see. I'm trying to get them in the picture. There we go. Can you see them?
I can. See.
Yeah. So, with you being an author, let's talk about these books.
Sure. So
Stop the Bus. Maybe you can kind of give us an idea of what prompted you to write this book.
Sure. The Stop the Bus was written because I was just utterly frustrated with America's educational system and the way that we go about educating children. And I wanted to
Yeah.
express that there are other ways and different ways we should look at education. So Stop the Bus is a little bit of a metaphor for what I believe America's educational system is, which is a bus is out of control with a driver who's blind, with a bunch of people who can't decide if they want to get on or off the bus. So like
Oh,
for us to stop and figure out exactly where it is we want to go.
yeah. And you know, when you think of when you were writing the book, who is the ideal audience for reading this book?
Well, so they're short essays. Initially they were me writing to letters to the editor. So editors generally, if you want to write a rebuttal, you can only get 250 to 300 words. So all of them, I believe, are 300 words or less. And so sometimes they were written to organizations that featured stuff about parenting. Sometimes they were about things that the state or federal government was saying about education. Sometimes it's just about something some local reporter did about an educational piece that I found objectionable. And then I would write to those people.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, kind of speaking to writing and your background, I know that you have a very high education. And let's talk about that a little bit, because I know that you have your master's and, you know, you did a lot of, a college education after high school.
Sure. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting,
Hmm.
a minor in sociology, a master's degree in history and theology, and a doctor of jurisprudence. So, which just means I have a law degree.
Yeah, I mean, that is extraordinary. I mean, for someone to be that disciplined to get that kind of an education, I mean, it's very admirable for what you've done. And I mean, I'm just exhausted thinking, oh my goodness, I'm thinking, I know what my kids went through with, with their college educations. And I'm thinking, wow, you got your master's degree and, there's all of these other wonderful things that you've accomplished. When you think about, just what keeps you going every day, Nate? You've got an incredible discipline. You're very poised. And what keeps you going every day with just everything that goes on around you?
So you asked earlier about these 20 things, and you mentioned a little bit about, I think you called it the miracle morning. So
Yeah.
each morning that I do something that's a little bit different. I journal, and I believe I sent you that book as well, but I
You
journal.
did.
I journal
Yeah.
each morning, and it started out with 8 minutes, then it morphed to 14. Now it's about 20 minutes. But every morning
Yeah.
I take the first 20 minutes to write my life as I'd like it to be, not as it is.
Wow.
And so what I found was that science indicates that we have about 70,000 thoughts a day, and about 90% of those thoughts are about things that happened previously. And the only way to change the way that we think is to begin the day by putting things in our thoughts that are future oriented. So that's what I do.
You're kind of programming.
I'm
right?
programming my life, right?
Yeah.
And so and the interesting thing is that things that I have written have manifested. And recently, a couple of weeks ago, shouldn't say a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, I attended a conference where I spoke. I was asked to lead a workshop. I looked at the list of keynote speakers, and this was no disrespect to them. I thought, they're okay, but I would be much better. And so I wrote, I wrote in my journal that I was the keynote speaker, and a couple of days ago, I got a call about doing that very thing, about being a keynote speaker for the event.
Oh my
now I've had
God.
that happen, on a couple of occasions now where I've written about something I wanted to happen. I said I was going to take my family to Hawaii, and during the pandemic, we flew to Hawaii. So,
gosh,
yeah, there's
so
some things.
It really does work. I mean, if you really manifest that, and because you're programming your mind to think, I need to work towards this.
Right, you're focused. You're focusing.
Yeah.
When I first got in business, I would set financial goals, but I didn't really set financial goals until I started to put them down somewhere, and I started repeating them. And then suddenly one day I woke up and I was like, oh man, I did this month what I said I was going to do. Yeah. And wow, I did this month far more than I thought. And so I really do believe that as we think it, so are we. And so we think in our heart. so are we. And that's part of what I do every day.
Yeah. So what do you think you would tell people that are watching and listening? What would you tell them to, if they want to get started on similar to what you're doing, how do they go about doing it?
The first thing I would say to anyone is to ask who it is that you want to be when your time on this planet is over. I think too
Yeah.
infrequently people just go by day to day, not having any real clue about the destination that they're trying to reach. I liken what
Mhm.
I do to being, and this is certainly a bit of a hyperbole because I'm not her, but a little bit like Harriet Tubman, which to know
Oh.
the slaves oftentimes looked at the North Star to figure out
Mm.
how to escape. I think most of us are trying to
Mm.
escape and find our way to somewhere, but we don't have a North
Mm.
Star. So the very first thing I'd
Mm.
ask people to do is to create your own North Star. For me,
Oh, that's
it's a vision
beautiful.
board. I have
Yeah.
a huge vision board. It's about 5 feet by 6 feet. That's one of them.
That's the biggest I've heard of.
I have another one.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's right
That would
here.
be fun to fill in too. You
Yeah.
can fill in a lot.
I have it's right here. I have one in the kitchen. A version of it in the kitchen is about 4 feet by
Oh.
5 feet. I have one over the same one over my bed that's like 3 feet by 4 feet.
Oh my
I have it on
gosh.
my mirror. I have it on my phone. I have it on the screen of my computer. But
Wow.
it shows up on the television sometimes. But yeah, I have a North Star. And the only way I
Yeah.
can be mindful of where it is that I'm attempting to go in my life is to be able to see it. If you can't see
Is
it,
to,
then
yeah,
forget
focus on that North Star. And I mean, with all those reminders all around you, I mean, there was one year, and this is probably 2 years ago, where, we were during the pandemic, and I thought, gosh, where's my joy? I need to find joy in my life. I mean, I have a wonderful life. I have a wonderful husband and family and dogs and a turtle or a tortoise. And I found myself wanting to see the word joy everywhere. So I would write it. I would just have it everywhere. People would give
Mhm.
me things that say joy,
Mhm.
and I still have some of them. Some of them I took down, but it really does something for you and puts it out there in the universe when, like, you've got, all
Mhm. Mhm.
these vision boards.
Yep.
And I know there's one that I did a few years ago with some friends, and really a lot of it has come true. There's a few things that, that trip to Italy, which is on not my bucket list, but my life list.
Absolutely.
So, because we're Italian, or I'm Italian, so I want to be able to make it to Italy. But
Okay.
that vision board, I mean, does it just become like, you got blinders on, like, okay, I've got them all over the place, which is a great thing. I
Mhm.
admire that. But do you find that do you look at them? Do you pay attention to
I
those
do.
vision boards?
I do. And the interesting thing is that I've shared them with so many people now that other people hold me accountable to it. So I think
Oh.
when you are a dream chaser and you start chasing your words, once you
Mhm.
share, see, I'm not afraid to share what it is that I want for my life. So the people
Yeah.
who care about you greatly will hold you accountable to doing the things that you said you wanted to do.
Oh,
So
that is so
yeah,
true.
right.
So true. Yeah. Yeah. And I know, so the other book that you wrote is this one,
Mhm.
and Raising Superman. So let's talk about this book. And
Yeah.
this, yeah.
It's a collection. Race Superman is the first thing that I've ever published. It is a collection of letters that I wrote to my son from age 2 to 16. And it was my attempt in part to satisfy the desire of a 2-year-old who wanted mail. And I tried to
Mm.
convince him that there was nothing good in the mailbox, but he insisted nonetheless. So I
Oh.
started sending him greeting cards and postcards and realized that
Oh.
writing him was less about me writing him, and a lot more about me was cathartic. So a lot of things
Oh.
that I hadn't resolved in my own childhood, in relationship with my father, my mother, etc., I was
Yeah.
able to write to my son, and then also realized that it was a great opportunity to build a relationship with someone, because there's something that happens special with writing. One, when you write, you have to, if you do it right, you write intentionally. And if you write
Yes.
something that you
Yeah.
shouldn't write, you can go back and revise it and soften it or make it exactly the
Yeah.
way you want it. The other great thing about it is that it gives a person an opportunity to read it and process it. So sometimes when
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
talking, especially to young children, they hear the inflection in your voice, they look at with the look on your face, and they either tune you out or they misunderstand the point behind what it is you're saying. But when you write them, there's some they get an opportunity to completely digest it. So that's what it is. It's
Oh,
about, I
yeah.
think, 34 letters or so that I wrote him. I continue to write him. I wrote him till the letters that are in that book are until he left the country as a 16-year-old, moved to Brazil.
Oh my, where did he move to? I didn't hear that.
I'm sorry, he moved to Brazil. At 16,
Oh, to Brazil.
he left high
Wow.
school early. This is part of the process that that my family has used. But as a 16-year-old, he completed virtually all of his high school requirements.
My
Was fluent in
gosh.
multiple languages. And as while we were standing on the Grand Canyon one afternoon in late December of 2011, he said, "It's time for me to leave. You know, I've done essentially all I could do here. I want to chase my dream of playing professional soccer. We
Oh
talk
my
about
goodness.
dreaming all the time, and it's
Yeah.
time for me to go." And so we found a way to get him out of the country, and he moved to Brazil.
Oh my goodness. So how often do you see him or talk to him?
Well, he's back now. So he's 27 now. He was in Brazil for
Oh,
a
so
little
okay,
over a
so
year.
he's been and
He
done
had,
that.
he had a concussion.
Okay.
Yeah, he got a
Yeah.
concussion and decided that while he was in Brazil, he figured out what he wanted to do with his life. And he wanted to be an engineer and use technology to enhance the lives of people who have been historically and geographically underserved and underrepresented.
Oh,
So that's
wow.
his PVP, his personal value proposition. And now he's a fifth year PhD candidate at Carnegie Mellon. He'll be done in May.
Oh my goodness, that is phenomenal. You must be one heck of a proud dad.
Oh,
And
no, I'm
your
not
wife
proud.
too.
I'm not proud. I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
Grateful. That's
I'm
yes, that's a
Yes.
better way of putting it. I mean, of course you're proud of him, but grateful because he had the discipline, the desire, and the passion to achieve what he's achieved.
Absolutely.
And achieving.
And
So it doesn't
grateful.
stop.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
grateful that the universe or the spirit or God or whatever term people might find a comfortable term to use decided to grace me with the opportunity to be his father. So I'm grateful. I'm humbled by it every day.
That's beautiful, you know, and hopefully there's parents out there that are watching and they're being inspired by what you're saying and, you know, how you really set the kind of the tone early in life to help your son to see how successful he could be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we started before he was born with, again, creating a North Star for him. We wrote Harvard before he was born, used the application from Harvard to backward design his life. So that 16-year-old, when he said, I wanted to leave the country, he was more than prepared to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have happened if we didn't have a plan in place to begin with.
That is just a beautiful story. And I'm going to switch it up a little bit because I really want to know, what is your most favorite thing in the world to do?
Well, I'm kind of telling you, the most favorite thing in the world to do is spend time with my son. That's the most favorite thing in the world.
Go figure, right?
Right. Outside of that,
spending time with him. Yeah.
Outside of that, the thing I enjoy doing the most is writing. I can
Writing.
go anywhere and sit alone and write.
Oh, yeah, that really is a gift, you know, when you can write. And there are a lot of people out there that have writer's block, or they hire a ghostwriter, you know, to tell their story, and they don't know how to get started. So for people that are, you know, thinking of writing a book, what kind of guidance or first steps would you indicate or you know, just want to share with them?
Excellent question. What would I suggest you do if you want to write a book? I would say get started writing. Open up a page. If it's Windows, if you prefer to write with a pen or paper. But I would say it's much like anything else you've ever done. If I think about a child that does not yet know how to walk, what a child does is a child crawls, and writing is very much the same way. You're going to
That's
crawl
a good analogy.
You're going to crawl for a while. And occasionally you're going to have some good days and you're going to stand up and you're going to fall. But the interesting thing you learn from children, that children who learn to walk, they crawl and they stand and they fall and they stand and they crawl and they stand and they fall until they're able to walk. And I think the writing's the same thing. Most people give up, and it's just not writing on anything. It could be any aspect of business or life. Most people don't want to go through the journey, which is crawling and walking and falling and crawling and walking and falling.
Yeah. And I think people, you know, sometimes they don't have the patience, or they don't have that vision at the end of the tunnel where, oh my gosh, I can't wait till this book is done. They just get to a point where they've got maybe the first chapter, the second chapter done. And I've talked to numerous authors who, it took them a long time to write their book. And I have one friend in particular, and I'm not sure, she watches the show occasionally. She has a children's book that she's trying to finish. And I've always encouraged her, do it, and she's doing a lot of things. And I'll give a little tip because she does trips to Tanzania. So I won't say her name because I want her to get her, the children's book done. But no, it's really interesting, and especially you have this full-time career, and then, here you are doing other things that, kind of balance out your life.
Sure.
And with your family and including your family in that.
Yeah, I'm mindful of this. And I'm sorry, you were going to say
no,
something.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying to your friend who wants to write the children's book. I'm mindful of this for anything. We're all here for an unspecified amount of time, and none of us know when our time is up. But if that thing that you believe in whispered in your ear and told you today was your last day, unless you could prove that you were going to do something worthwhile with that day and the time, you know what your friend would be able to do? Your friend would find a way to write. Yeah. But it's because we lack the real sense of urgency, and we take the day and this moment for granted, that we then think we can postpone it. I would say don't postpone it. Each morning, 150,000 people who went to bed the previous night do not wake up. So
that gives me the chills to even think about that, because, and I just recently lost my brother back in early October. Yeah. So, and he was an amazing guy, just lit up the room. But you're right, because there are a lot of people that don't, they don't wake up. And, those are stories that are lost. Those are, people that have these amazing lives that, that either people know about or they don't know about.
Correct. And the only way the story will be told is they take the time to tell the story.
That's right. That's so true. Yeah. So Nate, with everything that we've talked about today, I can't wait to read the books. I'm going to include them in my Miracle Morning starting on Monday. So I'm going to have fun with that. And, I'm just so excited to read them. What would you like to leave our audience with?
Just that I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have the opportunity to speak with you. And I hope that there's something we said, as my father used to say this to me. So I'll leave you with this. He used to say, if there's anything that I said to you that works for you, keep it. And if it doesn't, throw it away.
Oh, yeah. Well, I would imagine that your dad was a pretty wise man, and like you.
he's gone now. The longer he's gone, the more I understand and see his wisdom.
Yeah. And those are great. That's a great idea to look at it that way. And I know, I always love there's a saying, live each day to its fullest, because tomorrow's never promised, so it's important to live out each day. And the one thing that I've learned from losing my brother is keep in touch. Make the phone call, tell them you love them. And, and I think that goes a long way, because that's something that, again, we just don't know what's going to happen. And someday you're going to regret possibly that, that you didn't get a chance to talk with them last time.
You mentioned joy. And if I could, I'd say this to you. I would say to everyone to live, love, and laugh with joy on purpose. On purpose.
On purpose. That is wonderful. You're so inspiring. You've inspired me, and I'm sure you've inspired our audience too, Nate. It's been a pleasure. And I want to remind our audience, we are here with Nate Turner, and he is an author, speaker, financial advisor, and he is coming to us from, Nate, let's hear where you're coming to us from.
Zionsville, Indiana, which is just outside of Indianapolis.
There we go. So Zions. Yeah. And I've heard of Zions. Yeah. I've not been there.
There's no reason for you to come here. You can come visit.
Sure it's beautiful.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not California.
Yeah. California is a little bit different. Of course, California has its earthquakes and, water drought and a few other things, but I'm a native Californian. So So this is all I know.
All right.
Yeah. But no, it's been great, Nate. And thank you so much. It's been a pleasure meeting you, connecting with you on LinkedIn. And, it's just been a pleasure. And we appreciate you just sharing your wisdom. And I know that our audience will definitely want to get in touch with you. So how do they reach you?
Well, the easiest, I have a website. The easiest place to find me is Nathaniel, Nathaniel Turner, Turner.com.
Oh, very good. All right. Well, to our audience, we want to thank you for joining us. Remember to subscribe on YouTube and catch all of our episodes, and especially this one today with Nate. We had a great interview with Nate, and he is out there inspiring his family and inspiring people that he comes in contact with. He's a TEDx talker, and he just has a lot of great qualities that really showed up today, and I appreciate that, Nate. So thank you again for joining us, and we will catch everyone next time. Thank you.